Paris was one breath away from falling. German artillery thundered through the French countryside, confident nothing could stop them. But from the smoke, just 3,000 U.S. Marines emerged dug in, outgunned, and surrounded. What happened next would shock even their commanders. They were young, many barely 20, fresh off boats from American soil. They had trained fast, eaten little, and now faced the roaring storm of Europe's bloodiest war. The year was 1918. The place, Belleau Wood, a dense forest just 60 miles from Paris. The German army had launched what it believed would be its final, unstoppable push to take the city. If Paris fell, France would collapse and the Allies would crumble with it. Germany's elite divisions had torn through trenches and towns. French troops were retreating. British forces were exhausted. And then came the Americans new to the war, and tested, and proven. Just 3,000 U.S. Marines stood between the Kaiser's war machine and Paris. When they arrived, they were met with disbelief. The French advised them to retreat. One Marine famously replied, "Retreat? Hell, we just got here." And they meant it. The Marines dug into Belleau Wood as German artillery pounded the trees into splinters. Bullets zipped through the leaves like wasps. Gas masked their vision. But the Americans didn't break. On June 6th, the order came, attack. What followed was one of the most brutal hand-to-hand combats of the entire war. Through machine gun fire, they charged no cover, no tanks, just grit. The Germans weren't prepared. These Marines weren't like the tired European troops they had been defeating. These were men who fought like animals in the mud. Wave after wave, the Americans came. When one fell, another rose. They took the first German line, then the second. Belleau Wood became a slaughterhouse. By June 26th, after 20 days of relentless fighting, the U.S. Marines had taken the forest. The cost? Over 1,800 American casualties. But they had stopped Germany's advance cold. Paris was saved. The Germans had believed the Americans were too inexperienced, too green. But what they encountered was a wall of willpower that refused to break. The name Marines would be etched into the minds of German commanders with a new kind of respect and fear. That single stand at Belleau Wood became more than a victory. It was a statement. The U.S. was no longer a distant observer of world affairs. From the blood-soaked ground of that forest, a new military power had emerged, and it would never again stand in the background. Belleau Wood wasn't just a military victory. It was a baptism by fire. It was where the U.S. Marine Corps became a legend. It was where America, still new to the horrors of global war, showed the world it wouldn't back down, not in the mud, not under fire, and not when everything was on the line. And Paris? It never fell. Because 3,000 Marines made sure of it.